So Pakistan's general and provincial assembly elections were held last Thursday, February 8th, several months after they were constitutionally due. They were due last fall. More than 61 million voters showed up at the polls, despite internet and cell phone services being shut off that day. Candidates backed by former Prime Minister Imran Khan's party won the highest number of parliamentary seats, though not an outright majority. They may still not be able to form government. The election was marred by allegations of election day interference. Khan's party has cited discrepancies, major ones, in polling station results versus constituency level results. There were also unexplained delays in vote counting the night of the election and then continuing for several days. The final results took days to come out when they were due constitutionally by that night. And there's also the fact that some candidates lost major vote leads that had been reported on election night by the next morning. I will start off with Bilal, then Amber, then Michael.
I feel very honored to be in this august company and with Brookings on a subject as interesting and as timely as Pakistani elections. I begin by recognizing that for the first time in Pakistan's history of elections, a political party has emerged successful, at least in securing the highest number of seats in the National Assembly, which has been forcibly removed from the power in the past. This has never happened. Once a party is removed, then that party doesn't return to power, at least in the most subsequent election. So PTI has been able to emerge as the largest political party in Pakistani National Assembly. This is something which has been a unique feature of this election. I wish to share the disappointment which, Madhya, you have just mentioned about the delay in election results. I think in this election, if there was one major disappointment, that was the delay in announcing the result of the election, which really created a lot of doubts about the integrity of the election. Since by law, the results were supposed to be announced by 2 a.m. early in the morning next day. And even if there were some instances where it could not be possible, they must be announced by the next day by 10 in the morning. But unfortunately, not a single constituency out of 859 constituencies result was announced by 2 a.m. And 10 a.m. next morning, only 30 National Assembly constituencies results were announced around 11 in the morning. So that was not only a violation of the law, that was great disappointment. And I think people were justified in doubting that why this delay has taken place. And whatever little justification we have heard about that delay has not been very convincing. So that is one feature of this election. But I must also remind you that election in Pakistan had almost always been very contentious. Almost every time one party or the other, which has not won the election, would consider elections rigged and would be raising hue and cry. And there had been a huge agitation in after 2013 election, which led to a sit-in in Islamabad, which paralyzed the capital, paralyzed the country for quite a long time after the 2013 election, and which eventually led to the premature removal of the Nawaz Sharif government in 2017. So I think this time it is again a very contentious election. There are times when, despite the contentious elections, government are formed and government is able to move on, at least for 2-3 years, and make decisions which are needed to be made. But this time, we will see whether this will be possible. Apparently, PTI seems to be in a combative mood. They have appointed a leader of the opposition, which most likely will be the opposition, who's a very aggressive person and who had been criticizing the opponents in very strong terms. So it seems that there is going to be conflict on the assembly floor and outside. And we hope that despite that, country is able to move on and country is able to solve some of the critical issues like economy, which we are facing right now. Before I conclude, a couple of points I want to just data points I want to draw your attention to that voter turnout, despite the fact there were two kind of forecasts that either it will be people will come out in huge numbers, it will be a tsunami of voters, or people will be disappointed and they will not come out to vote. So voter turnout will be very low. In fact, reality is somewhere between the two. We have 5 percentage point lower voter turnout than we had in 2018. It is about 47% voter turnout. Second thing is that the party share in the National Assembly votes is almost the same as it was in 2018 election for PMLN and for PTI. So that remains the same. And third point and last point I want to mention is that very surprisingly and almost prophetically, public opinion poll, which was announced on 1st January, its result are matching exactly with the result of this election. I don't know how did it happen. It very rarely happens, but the number of votes, percentage of votes secured by both PMLN and PTI and People's Party are exactly the same as we have seen in this election.
Bilal, I think I'll turn to you in terms of your views on the next government, its stability, what we can expect for civil-military relations in the sort of the short to medium term, but also the longer term, its ability to address economic and security challenges that Pakistan faces.
Thank you. But very briefly, I want to also underline the point which Amber made regarding the possibility of many of these documents which have been put up on internet to be not correct ones. There could be fake documents. This needs to be verified and proper forum will have to be decided whether this documents are correct or not. Coming to the next government, I think this kind of result, which I pointed out is a unique kind of result, where a party which was ousted by force has come back to become the largest political party. I think that provides an opportunity for both military and civil to reconsider. I think the futility of what military did and the result has probably shown that should be considered as a something which will prompt them to start rethinking about the civil-military relations and not to allow the old pattern of civil-military relations to continue. So I think this should provide them an opportunity to reconsider that in that sense. But on the other hand, you mentioned about the economy. Economy is the major issue which Pakistan and any future government of Pakistan will be facing. And if there is no stability in the country, and if the government is not allowed to function, which there is a possibility that there is agitation and there is protests on the streets about the supposedly the rigging of the elections or whatever it is, then it means that the government, whichever is formed, will not be able to be stable and will not be able to take hard decisions and will not be able to address the major issues of economy. If that is the case, in that case, I don't. I mean, it pains me a lot to say that, but I don't see the future or prospects of democracy very bright in the future. Because if the economy is not addressed, which means Pakistan would be moving towards a default situation once again, then many people would be thinking that better than democracy, take a situation where things with country have stable governance and can address the issues of economy in a much stable manner. So I think in that sense, civil-military relations may take a direction in the opposite turn, which otherwise, if there's a very little hope, but I just want to highlight that if it is somehow possible for PTI to somehow start talking to other two parties, because it can only form a government, be part of a government if it is talking to them. And he has openly said that he won't talk to them. But if in the meantime, if he is convinced that he should be talking to them, that can probably be a major game changer. And then we can move towards more stability while preserving democracy. Otherwise, I think I see clear threats to democracy in the days to come while we start addressing our economic issues.
The point about, the use of technology, of AI, and of misinformation in this election, this is something, of course, that we're seeing globally in what is a huge election year around the world. By some reports, 83 elections happening this year around the world, and about half of the world's population voting. So Pakistan, of course, the fifth largest country in the world, and this is a very significant election for the country. But we're seeing some of those same, obviously, tools used in both a positive sense, and can be used in the sense of misinformation. On PDM 2.0, Amber brought out the point that PPP has said that they will not be in the cabinet. That will make PDM 2.0 different from PDM 1.0 in the sense that PPP, of course, had taken charge of two very important ministries, both the climate change ministry, important in a year that Pakistan had floods, and the foreign ministry. And of course, we might see differences this time around. So I'm going to ask one final question to all the panelists and go through. I'll start with you, Michael, then Bilal, then Amber for closing. And if you could keep your responses to about a minute each. We're in 2029. Pakistan is about to have its next election. What are we seeing? What do you expect? Where do you expect Pakistan to be in 5 years? Let's say we convene this panel again for a discussion. What do you think we'll be talking about? Michael.
Unfortunately, I think we'll be talking about many of the same issues, civil military issues, economic concerns, and all. I just don't think the next 5 years is going to see Pakistan solving all of these longstanding issues. And I also think that we'll be talking about PTI. I don't think PTI will go away, even though Khan may be in jail for a few years. If there's a new army chief in a few years from now, that could have an impact on Khan's relations with the military. Khan wants to come back to power, and he must know that he needs to figure out ways to reconcile with the military to an extent. So I think PTI, along with the other parties, will be a big part of the conversation in 2029 as well.
Bilal?
Yeah, what Michael just said reminded me of late Stephen Cohen when somebody asked, in fact, he has narrated that in his book as well, that what could be will the situation get worse? Or situation will get better in Pakistan? He said, I'm afraid that the situation will remain the same. It will not change. So apparently it looks like that. But as I alluded to earlier, I think situation of economy is such that it may not be possible for things to continue as they used to continue in the past. So some drastic decisions will have to be taken, even if I hope that those drastic decisions are taken with democracy intact. Otherwise, my sense is that if there is disturbances on the street and there's agitation on the streets, then the democracy may have to take back seat and people may start addressing the issues of economy, although I'm not very hopeful that they can also handle economy better than what we do it under democracy. But there will be serious threats before 2029 comes about democratic setup and the elections. This is what my apprehension is.
Right. Well, it's certainly been an excellent discussion. What followed a very interesting election. I said when the election was about to happen, either this is going to be the most boring or the most interesting election in Pakistan's recent history. And I would say that most would agree that it certainly shaped out to be a very interesting election. And more to come because, the government still hasn't yet been formed. And we will certainly be watching Pakistan here at Brookings, more events on Pakistan. So on behalf of the Center for Middle East Policy and the Foreign Policy Program at Brookings, thank you so much to our excellent panelists for joining us for this discussion today, to our audience for tuning in and for your questions. We look forward to seeing you at our next event. Thanks.
Thank you.